Guys, it's your buddy Caden with your Money Minutes, where I will interview millionaires, and they will give us advice on helping families in business. Today, my special guest is Dr. George C. Fraser. Dr. George Fraser is a Cleveland-based author, entrepreneur, and speaker focusing on improving networking skills, building wealth, and improving diversity and inclusion. In 2011, Dr. Fraser was inducted into the Minority Business Hall of Fame and Museum. He has been awarded over 350 awards and citations from around the world, to include 3 honorary PhDs. He has put on the Popular Power Networking Conference for the past 15 years, selected by Forbes magazine in 2015 as one of the top 5 conferences not missed by entrepreneurs. Everybody, welcome the self-proclaimed OG, Dr. George C. Fraser.
Very nice. Very well done. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show today, Dr. Fraser.
It's my pleasure.
So let's start off with some questions. Dr. Fraser, being the chair of multiple charter schools, how important is it to have schools where you can utilize the curriculum outside of what the state provides?
Well, I like it. I helped to co-found 2 charter schools in the urban community in Cleveland, Ohio. This was 17 years ago, and those schools are functioning, and they're better than the public schools in the inner city of Cleveland. What I really like about it, to answer your question more specifically, is that yes, we must abide by the state curriculum, no question about that, so that our children can qualify to take the state exams and pass the state exams with flying colors, of which they do. But we also have the flexibility of introducing cultural thinking, to tell them more about their ancient history, their modern history, how we were building pyramids and solving complex engineering problems when other cultures were living in cages and caves, not cages, but caves. African people are God's first people, and we make our 300 Black students understand that. And we civilized humankind. No, Europeans did not come to Africa, pull us out of trees eating bananas, and civilized us. That is not the truth. We civilized them. So we were doing great things 10,000 years before Christ, building pyramids, 4,000 years before Christ. So I love the fact that we can teach that. We have the flexibility to teach that in our classrooms and give our young Black students a sense of self, a sense of their own history, not only their modern history, which is 400 years old, but the ancient history, which is thousands of years old. And, it's very satisfying to be able to do that. They need a new curriculum that teaches Black history correctly in public schools, and I'm serving on a board, and we have published a new curriculum called Black History 365, and it covers the total span of Black people in this world, which is millions of years, and then civilizing this world, which are thousands of years old. So I feel very fulfilled and very satisfied that our work is impacting young people like you, Kate, because we got to begin with our young people.
That sounds awesome. And I hope that the curriculum can change so that we can teach other kids about financial literacy and about Black history as well.
That's right. And that's another thing we teach in our charter schools that they don't teach in public schools. And that's about money, right? Money,
Yeah.
teaching our kids at a very young age on the assets that they need and the behaviors and the habits that they need to develop, to think about money differently and to spend it wisely, to invest it wisely, to leverage it so that you can pay for your college education, to invest it and leverage it so you can buy a home, to leverage it and invest it so that when you grow up and have children, you could send them to any school you want to send them to. So understanding money, understanding wealth is critical in achieving that objective. And again, you got to start early. We start talking about money at home, and then hopefully we talk about it in church. And then hopefully we talk about it at the kitchen table and we talk about it in school. And so once we start doing that and getting educated about money, Kate, and getting a little bit more sophisticated about money, there's nothing that we cannot have and or achieve. Does that make sense?
Yes, that sounds great. The second
Good.
question I have for you, Dr. Fraser, is in your book titled Click, you talk about connecting with the right person that has 3 specific qualities: the right chemistry, the right fit, and the right timing. Can you speak about that?
Sure. Let me just start by saying that relationships in your life, the people around you, the people that you select to hang out with, will ultimately determine your life. Introduce me to your 5 closest friends, Caden, and that will tell me who you are, because as they know and as they go, so go you. What I preach and what I teach is that don't spend major time with minor people. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships. Why is this so important? Because everything in life is about a system. So there's a system for getting A's, and there's a system for getting D's. So if young people are getting C's and D's, is that's the only system they're exposed to, and if the system comes from the people that are around them, they're following the system of the people around them, and so they get similar grades that the people around them get. So if you looked at your 5 closest friends, Caden, they would have about the same grades that you would have. The same thing if you make money. If you're hanging out with people that are making $200 a week, you're probably going to make $200 a week. All right. So if you want to get A's, hey, instead of C's, you have to remove yourself from the people around you who are getting C's and hang out with people who are getting A's, and then follow the system that the people who are getting A's are using versus the system who people are getting D's, because there's a difference between what you do to earn an A and what you do to earn a C. So it's a system. Whoever has the best results in whatever objective that you are trying to achieve, whatever system they're using, it's good to learn from them and to copy what they're doing so that you can achieve as well and as a higher level as anyone.
Okay. Thank you for that advice and giving that advice to everyone else.
Yeah, that's why I in my book Click, I say there are 3 things that you should look for as you select your friends. Chemistry. Do you feel the person? Do you like them? Do you like the way they handle themselves, the way they comport themselves, the way they act with character and respect? Is it similar to how you feel and how you act? That's chemistry. There's a connection, there's an energy. And then fit. Are they trying to do the same things that you're trying to do? Right? Are they, are they working hard to get good grades? Do they like the sports that you like? Do they go even to the same schools that you go to? So you look for things that fit together easily between you and the person. You have essentially the same vision, the same goals, and the same objectives for your life. That's fit. And then timing. Timing is everything. At the end of the day, the acid test is time. So you meet the right person at the right time. That's either circumstances, happenstance, right? Providence. But for example, let's say I met a beautiful woman and we had chemistry and we had fit. And we were both at an age that we would consider marriage. Let's say we were in our mid-30s. But if she's already married, although I'm single, bad timing, right? I should have met her before she got married and got committed to someone else, and vice versa. So that's timing. So a lot of life is about the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's accidental. You just happen to be there. Sometimes it's circumstantial. The circumstances put you in that space and place in the moment. All right. A little bit of luck sometimes. So that's what clicking is about. You click when three things are in perfect alignment: chemistry, fit, and timing. We could have good chemistry, good fit, bad timing. We won't click. We could have good timing, good chemistry, bad fit. I'm going one place, you're going someplace else. Bad fit. So if one of those three things are out of alignment, you won't click. And that's what I'm talking about when I wrote that book. How do you align yourself? Because you don't click with everybody that you meet, right? Click means you do something together that's productive, that is useful, that is helps you grow as a young person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Well, thank you for that advice, and I loved your book, Click. And the next question for you, Dr. Fraser, are what are some ways that we can teach kids the power of networking?
Well, I wrote a book on that too, called Who Would Have Thunk It? The First Adventure of the Fraser Foster Kids. I was a foster kid. And the job that I went around in the neighborhood talking about and modeling was that it takes teamwork to make the dream work. That if you wanted to do something big, that you had to do it with and through other people, which means we have to have friends. And so I spent a lot of time as a young person making friends in the neighborhood and recruited those friends when there was large things that I wanted to get done that was for the benefit of everyone, but everyone needed to participate. So it started with starting a modeling club. I was into building car models, right? Plastic car models with glue and paint. It was a hobby. And then I started a club of other kids that might be interested in that hobby, and that we as a group could learn from each other. It's just like a mastermind group. And we could learn how to build better cars, how to customize them better. We would feed off of each other's ideas, right? And we would have fun working on our little plastic model cars and airplanes and battleships and a variety of other things together. And as we did that together, everybody improved their skills, and we had contests, and we awarded little ribbons for people who had the best examples of the things that we learned together. So it's very important to work together, even studying together, Kate. There's probably a friend that you might have, maybe two, that in a particularly hard subject, you want to come together at one person's home and spend an hour or two studying together, reading, and then talking and speaking back to each other your impression or interpretation of what you read, right? It would be difficult for you to do that same thing by yourself. You could read, but you don't generally talk to yourself about what was meant by what you read. It's a little bit easier to do that with someone. And maybe you can do it with your parents. Maybe you can do it with friends. And but friends is a good way to do it. And so we have to learn how to do that. And we have to build friendships, build relationships, be nice, be empathetic. Do you know what empathy is versus sympathy? Right? Empathy is putting yourself in the other person's position. Okay, putting yourself in the other person's position so that you could at least attempt to feel what they feel. All right. So that's my answer to the question, and I think you're very astute for asking a question like that. It's a wonderful question.
Yeah. Okay. It's really important to learn about networking. But the next question I have for you, Dr. Fraser, is the profession of Black families is something you speak about often. What is your advice to Black families on raising business-minded kids?
Well, what I tried to tell the many Black families that I talk to is that there are 7 assets that they should seriously consider buying their children. That wealth and the study of wealth and the management of wealth and the understanding of wealth and the tools of wealth are extremely important and are critically important if you start teaching them at a very young age, right? So let me tell you what the 7 assets are. I think parents should buy Black kids. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, a couple of these things you might not know about, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can. I think that a Black parent first thing they should get is what they call a custodial IRA account for their child, and then invest $1,000, let's say each Christmas, in a mutual fund. And in 10 years, that investment will earn enough interest alone to buy your child their first home.
Okay.
Right. Right. In 10 years, just the interest alone will be enough to buy your child his or her first home. That's called a custodial IRA account. Buy that mutual fund as part of that IRA account. Each Christmas, spend $1,000 on a mutual fund, and and make sure that the child knows it's for him or her, and they'll have enough money to buy their own, to certainly make a deposit, a serious deposit on their first home. So that's one thing. The second thing I recommend that parents get for children, young people, is to give them a job working for them. Okay?
Okay.
Give them a job working for you. Both of my sons worked for me. You can start a business if you don't already have one. You can hire your kid. And even if your business is not yet earning an income, you can pay your kid and use the earnings to save for college tax-free. All right. Now, some people may call that an allowance. Do you get an allowance, Caden?
Yes.
Okay. That's very good. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So get a job, give your kid a job working for you. And then whatever you pay your kid, right, use those earnings to save for college tax-free. Okay, so that's another asset. That's a second asset. Give your kid a job. Third asset. It's called fractional shares of stock. You can invest $20 in their favorite brands like Nike, McDonald's, Wendy's, whatever their favorite brands are. Today, you don't have to buy a whole share of stock. You can buy a fractional share stock. Let them know what stocks they have and what stocks to watch grow on the New York Stock Exchange. Give them a sense of this kind of investment with what we call fractional shares of stocks. Okay? So when they ask you for a pair of Nikes, you say, well, you're going to have to get the Nikes, and I'll get you some Nike stock. And we'll see in 20 years what your Nike sneakers are worth versus your Nike stock. Okay?
Okay.
So that's another thing, fractional shares. Another thing you can give your kid is good credit and helping them to understand the advantage of good credit. And if your parents have excellent credit, you can add your child as an authorized user on your credit rating. But you will have to, the adult needs to monitor that. But what you want to do is to help the child understand how important credit is and how each purchase that he or she makes and how it affects your credit, because your credit will determine how much interest you pay when you loan or when you borrow money, whether you're buying a home or whether you're buying a car or whatever. So that's another asset that adults can give their children. The fifth asset is to buy your children self-help books. Now, I know your mom and dad does that for you. I'm sitting in my office. You see what's behind me, right? My little library. There's 1,500 books in my library in my office. And there's 15,000 books in my home. So leaders are readers. Try to read one book a month. The average American only reads one book a year. If you, Caden, reads one book a month, in 5 years, you will have read 60 books, and the average American will have only read 5 books. You're going to be better prepared, and you are going to be smarter. So I know that you're reading self-help books. That's wonderful. And I don't know how many books you read a year or a month, but make sure you spend more time reading than you do watching television. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the sixth asset that a parent can get for their child. I'm sorry, that's the fifth. The sixth is business ownership. So if the parent owns an LLC or a limited liability company, they can add their child as a non-voting member to their LLC. And now the child is a business owner. Wouldn't you like to be a business owner?
Yeah.
Right? Right. So that's another thing. At least give them some sense of what it's like to own a business. Um, it is an 80% better chance of a young person becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner if their parents own a business. Okay? And
Okay.
final asset is cash. You can call that an allowance. But I think what goes with that cash should be some instructions. I think that if you, whatever you're going to spend of the cash that you get, half of it should be with a black owned business so that we can recycle black dollars. And then save the other half for new stuff and a jointly owned checking account. That's what you should have. You and your mother and your father could have a jointly owned checking account. And that shows you how to use the banking system, how to reconcile your bank account. These are all basic things that young people can learn at easily at the age that you're at. So those are wonderful assets that parents can start their children off with very early in life. And finally, parents need to get their children involved in both good and bad financial decisions. You need to know what goes into decision making when it comes to your money. And the best way to know that is for your parents to sit and talk with you on a regular basis, not all the time, um, about good business decisions they made and what it resulted in, and maybe even some bad ones, and what that resulted in, and the mistakes they made, because we learn from our mistakes and we learn from our failure. So those are what I think are the most important assets that a parent can start a young child out with. Was that helpful?
Yes, it was very helpful. Thank you for all of those tips. Dr. Fraser, the next question I have for you is what is the best way to reach out to people concerning our spending habits?
Um, it's a wonderful question, Caden. And the best way is to model that you expect from the people around you. namely your friends. Be a model of that behavior, because people generally copycat. That's what they do. So if you're doing the right things and saying the right things, you're going to influence your friends, right? There's an old saying, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. So you gotta demonstrate it wherever you can. And if you get a chance to talk about money, to make a little talk about it, because we always have to do things in schools and give lectures and impromptu speeches. I'm sure you've had to do that, right? You can always pick money or wealth as a topic, or you could pick networking, or you can pick something that you're excited and passionate about and you've learned about. And every chance you get a chance to stand up and speak and you have some flexibility on the subject, you can talk about it and influence people. Okay?
Okay. Dr. Fraser, this is my final question. It doesn't have anything to do with business, but I like to ask this to everyone. What is your guilty pleasure?
Golfing. I'm a golfer. I've been a golfer for over 50 years. And the challenge with golf, Caden, is that it takes a long time. So you know it takes a half a day to play a round of golf. And I really love my work. And every time when the weather is right, I'm on the golf course, I feel guilty that I'm playing instead of doing the work that I love. But I rationalize it, right? You got to have some playtime. You got to have some time to do some things that you love, right? So although I feel a little guilty at times because I know there's some things I ought to be doing, um, it's a pleasure, and I do talk about it. I don't know if I overdo it, but maybe in the summertime I do when the weather is better in the north. But that's my guilty pleasure, and that's a wonderful closing question.
Dr. Fraser, I would like to thank you so much for spending time with me and my audience today. And thank you again for forwarding my best-selling book, Caden's Rich Kid Guide. Is there anything else you would like to say to the audience?
Yes, one final thing. I want to answer the most popular question on earth. And that question is, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life? The answer is, life has no meaning. You, Caden, have meaning. And you, Caden, bring that to life. So it is crazy to ask that question when in fact you are the answer. You, Caden, are the meaning of life.
Thank you for that. Now, guys, without further ado, remember, if Caden can, you can too.
Amen.